went to pick her up. And normally I know that she would always tell me to wait in the car until she comes out. You know, teenagers, right? I guess that's universal, and that applies here too. Like they don't want to be seen with their panic. It looks like it's almost like a real turn off if they see you with your hand. So I go to pick her up, and she actually calls me on the phone and says that you need to come down and you need to come inside the house. What happened? And I thought, like, she got into an argument, got into a problem, got in there, and she just had one question, which was, who designs your online bank? Me? Part of it? Why? It's horrible. We've been trying to open an account for the last 10 minutes and we don't see how. I thought, like, are you kidding me? Don't you see this thing? Here it says, new BBVA Compass, clear your choice. I start thinking, yeah, that doesn't sound that very easy. Clear your choice checking account, learn more. Like, you click there. It's like, Dad, we don't want to learn about the checking account. We want to open an account. And I thought, well, that's direct marketing for a millennial. They really want to have things clear, no running around. You want to learn more? No, I don't want to learn. So, you want to use this little introduction to present our next speaker, William Jan Peters. Works as UX researcher in the DBS Experience Design team. In this regional role, he has been responsible for the UX research of a variety of digital products for DBS, like new-to-market products, apps, platforms, and tools, as well as mentoring fintech startups on user experience. William Jan has previously worked for Philips Electronics in the Netherlands and Singapore, where he was responsible for consumer research and has been involved in both hardware and software development projects. So please welcome William Jan.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and a very good example of exactly what I do. Why do people like or dislike a product, right? You always want to know. So that's why my title of today is Understanding Your Customer, why it's not an option. You can interpret that both ways, right? You don't want to know or you do want to know, but the way I see it is that it's a must. You definitely want to know what your customer thinks about your product, because otherwise it's going to be very hard for you to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So what I'm going to talk about with you guys today is three things, right? So the banking experience, where are we going to go to in the future? Second part is UX design and research. What exactly is it? What is customer experience versus UI design? And then the last part, user experience at DBS, where I have an example of the work we've been doing so far. Right, so a little bit about me. So you know who's the guy standing in front of you, right? So as already mentioned, I'm a UX mentor and researcher at DBS in the experience design team. I started way back with, not way back, like 8 years ago, finishing my study in human technology, which focuses on what people do, how people interact with your product, try to understand how your marketing or your design needs to improve the product. Then I started working for Philips on these things, shavers. So even though I don't really have a beard, I was still very interested in how people would interact with shavers. So I did a lot of research on understanding the hardware around it, how's the ergonomics, how's the performance, try to feedback all that information to the teams in Philips. And in Philips, design thinking is a very important thing. They want to make sure that everything that's brought to market has the approval of the consumer, so they know it's going to land very well. Then after a couple of years working on these things, I wanted to continue to more complicated products. And that's where I ended up in Singapore about 5 years ago, and I started to work in home cinema. Home cinema product is a bit more complicated than a shaver. You have speakers, you have the console that plays everything, you have the interaction with your television, and also, as you can see here, nowadays these things also have docks, or you can control them using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So there I started to have a way more complicated interaction. And that's where really my love for digital started to arise, because digital has a lot of benefits. You can run two products at the same time, see what people prefer, you can make very fast adjustments even the next day, which is a bit harder and harder, right? So that's why in Philips I already started to focus a lot more on digital, and I moved from just pure proper product research into customer experience definition. And then that's where I got found by DBS, and I started to work at DBS, which is a bit more than a year ago now. I work in the central team, and we oversee every UX initiative in DBS. Right, so that's about me. So why would a bank like DBS hire someone with a UX research and UX hardware design background, right? That's because of a couple of things. Now I'll illustrate that with this story. So this is Alicia. The story about Alicia is the following. She was born on 29th of June in 2007. And I'm not sure if any one of you understands the significance of that date, but that is also the launch date of the first iPhone. So when that iPhone was launched, she was born. So the iPhone itself, probably that product, might not have a huge impact on her life, but that whole generation there almost, right, does have had a very big impact because of the iPhone and mobile first and digital, etc. Because a couple of products they will never see, we used to use, and that's our reference, right? But nowadays, you would never go and find out something in classifieds in a newspaper. You go to Craigslist, that's where you find out about good deals. Or Alicia would never use a landline. That is something of the past. She will always use her mobile phone, or she will use any other mobile device, or a computer, right? She will never use this anymore. Also, Yellow Pages or a phone book, she will not use that either. She will do everything to her mobile phone. So all of that information from the outside world is going to reach her through that screen in her hand, or on her computer, Another thing which she won't do is probably rent a video at a Blockbuster, which is a American chain that went bankrupt just a couple years ago, I think, or last year. And the issue here is that they're brick and mortar, right? And they provide services that you can also get through digital right now. So people don't want to go through the effort of going all the way to a brick and mortar place to get their services. And what's also brick and mortar is these things, bank branches. So this is where we want to welcome our clients, right? We think it's a very important channel to having a good relationship. But you see that nowadays everything comes in through the mobile. And that's very important for people like Alicia, that we don't lose touch. And that significance is also seen in DBS. So our CTO, so this is about branch visits, by the way, these keep going down, down, down. So that channel is not going to work out. Continuing with our CTO, he has even followed an app design course. And that app design course helped him to understand mobile. How do you make mobile products? How do you make products that help people interact easily with their bank, with their finances? Like this company does, Bank. Bank is a app in itself. It has the company has gotten a banking license. They're from the Netherlands, and what they've done very well is that they looked at what kind of way do people use money nowadays. So if you go out and have a drink with your friends, right? Do you then want to take out the cash out of your pocket? Do you want to put down those 10 ringgit with another few coins? No, you don't want to do it. You want to make it quick and easy. So I'm going to show a little video. I'll explain a little bit more about the video later, the features that they're building in that. So what you saw just now is that someone goes to the bar, meets his friends, he opens up his phone, he looks around for other people that also have this app, he can immediately add them to the list and pay, he pays for the drinks, requests the money, they send him the money, and he already pays at the bar. When he gets back, the money is done. They've set up an account, they have the money in there for that specific evening of fun. So that is something I believe that is a great opportunity, and we at DBS thought the exact same thing. And there's so many more companies that are starting to do this. If we don't watch out, then we'll be of the future, of the past. People will not longer be with us, and they will just go to companies like Bank, or at least stay away from traditional banks. This is a website of Wells Fargo, a big American bank, and I want to talk about unbundling the bank here. So this is their homepage. It is personal banking right now. So this is what it looks like now. But this is what it would look like if you would put all the startups that are doing the exact same thing that Wells Fargo does right now, but do it faster or cheaper, maybe even for free, and still get that same experience. So this is the issue that we might be having if we're falling asleep, right? So as mentioned before, our Chief Technology Officer, Dave Gladhill, went and did a mobile design course to understand how you can make products like Buck. And our CEO, Piyush Gupta, guy here on the left, also said we need to become the Apple of banking. This is a big race and we can't be lagging here. We need to make sure that we win this race. So this is a funny cartoon, right? You got little people running behind us. Currently it's not like that, but of course that's the ambition that we have as DBS. So that's why people like me started to work at DBS in UX design and research. And there's articles out there right now, and they have statements like this, right? By 2020, UX will overtake price and product as a key brand differentiator. So if you're not focusing on that, you're going to have an issue. So a little bit more about this UX design and research, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already heard about it, maybe your company's already doing it, but what I'm seeing a lot of times nowadays is that people are interchangeably mentioning it with UI and CX. So what is the difference between CX, which is customer experience, UX, which is user experience, and UI, which is user interface? So first of all, we start with CX, right? That's the customer experience. That's the sum of all experience in dealing with a company. An example of this would be Tesla. Tesla really wants to redefine this whole customer experience. So they make sure that all the channels that you're interacting with Tesla with, they're redesigned in a way that is thinking about the customer first. They don't have those traditional car dealerships. You don't need to go there. They don't have a guy in a suit trying to push you any car. They just want to make sure that you understand what the features are, how you can use them in that car, and they just have it in a mall. So where people go, you don't need to drive outside of the city. You can just go into the mall and understand what the product is about. So from sales to customer service to the website to the actual product, they've really thought through all the touch points. So that would be customer experience. Then UX, or user experience, that's a summary of the use of a product or a service. So it really focuses around that specific product. And an example of that would be Payla. Payla is a product that DBS has launched. It's kind of like Instabank. It's less features than what Roman has talked about, but it's very interesting too. So just based on people's phone number, and you can send them money. So you don't need to go through sending up their account details or which branch they're at or which specific account they have. You can just key in their phone number and send them the money. And that's a need that people have nowadays. So we started to define this app around that. So we made sure that the user experience around it is very well and nicely done. And then you have UI. So this is the interface. So the interface, what does it look like? How can people interact with it? Do they understand what's on the screen? That's about UI, right? So this is an example of UI, which can be a bit confusing. How many of you haven't had that experience that you wanted to fill out a password and you got a little bit annoyed because you keyed in the password, you pressed enter, and then it said, okay, your password does not comply. And then you get all this text. So here you have a little text on the left side that says, okay, we can't process the password. Please retype it, make sure it's between 6 and 8 characters, at least one letter, one number, no space and no special characters. So you really have to be constantly looking at the text to understand how you need to define your password. Why wouldn't you design the UI like this? And this is a Dutch example, which I came about last week. I thought it was a good one. I'll translate it for you guys, don't worry. So here it says, okay, your password needs to consist out of the following: one small letter, one capital, one number, one special character, and needs to be 8 characters at least, with a max of 32. So there, you already get a bullet-pointed instruction. But then once you start filling out the password, then something really good happens, right? So here I got my first small letter. It sees that, proves it. Then it goes to the first capital. The first number, first special character, and once you've had 8 characters, then it will give a green check for all the points. So this is about error prevention. Error prevention is something very important in defining a good UX. Help your people along the way so they know what they are doing instead of guessing, getting confused, dropping off, or even stop using your product. So, summary of that, and this is what it would look like if you would combine it all. So the overall sum of it would be customer experience, then on a product base, you would have your user experience, and then the definition of the screens and what they would look like would be UI. It's a little bit UX 101. So talking about maturity, right? You also have a maturity. So some of the organizations are already doing UX. Some of them are doing it very well. Some of them just started doing that. So Jared Spool, which is a guru in web development and UX, came up with a definition of 5 stages. I'd like to run you guys through those 5 stages so you can also understand which stage your company is at and what would be the ideal state. So the first stage is UX dark ages, and this big building here in the middle, that will be then your company, right? So this is the UX dark ages. This is where nobody's really concerned with UX. Most of the times your products aren't very well designed, people get confused, high drop-off rate, nobody's really talking about your product. This is a very sad stage to be in. This is where you are not making people very happy. And then the following apps, right? Because it's so bad, you get into the Sport UX product. So some lights start to turn on in your organization. Some people find it important to improve that customer experience, and they start to work on their little Sport UX projects. And they want to make sure that people have a great experience using your products. This also will not give your company like great commercial out there, and people will not start talking about it. So you need to put a little bit more in. Because of the Sport UX projects, it's very likely that managers will see what's happening out there, and that's important to work with UX. And that's why you get more into the serious UX investment. So then you start to put in money, and you will see that some bigger projects start to go out into outside world. You get very positive responses. You still need some help from other companies outside of your own company, right? So that's those arrows outside. And then we're getting really serious right now. Then the managers or the senior management has seen, okay, maybe we don't need those outside companies. We make sure that we hire those people ourselves. We embed them in our teams, and we're going to make sure that we have this competency ourselves. So any project you do, you take the knowledge with you, you build upon it, and you start to define roadmaps, design guidelines, and more mature levels of doing UX. But then still, this Jared Spool guy says, you haven't reached the ideal point yet. You need to have a tipping point. And the tipping point would be here. The sun starts to shine, and you got your integrated UX and services. And this would be the level where a lot of big companies are right now. And a little bit interesting fact about that is, why would you want to do this, right? Why would you want to put all this effort in hiring all those people, making sure you get these roadmaps done, understand the design language? It's because of this. Companies that have put design first and they're already over the tipping point, have proven that they outperform on the S&P index about 228% in the period from 2003 up to 2030. They've done research about it. So this is how your design first or design thinking could pay back to having a successful company. And those aren't very small companies, not even close to being small. So that's companies like Nike, Apple, Coca-Cola, and Starbucks, but there's more. And it was American research, so that's why it's just American companies, but there's other good examples of that well. So, how does that relate to DBS? That's about making banking joyful. Our CEO has said we need to make banking joyful. Banking is not just a choir, right? It's not just something you have to do and it's annoying and you need to go through it and you don't understand it half the time. We want to make banking joyful. And that is both for people that bank with DBS as well as the employees. So also inside of DBS, we want to make sure that people have a great user experience. So what we did, about a year ago, we started setting up the UX lab. We had some technology in there to make sure we understand what people are doing, and we started to invite people into our offices and let them run and use our own products. So then we could see what people liked and didn't dislike about our products, right? Because that's the only thing you can really do. You can hire a very good designer, And he can make the best product he thinks, but if you test it with people, you will still see that people have a different view on what he has designed. You need to make sure you get your people in there. So that's what we did, right? So this is from yesterday. That's Ed, that's my colleague, and he's running through a new product we're designing, right? So we have this eye tracker. It's a little bar underneath the screen, and we can exactly see where people are looking at on the screen. Because that's another very important thing with doing UX research, is that most of the times people could say they find something very easy to do at the end. But you've seen them struggling, you've seen the bottlenecks they had to go through. And it's very important that you're there to see what they're looking at and what the issue is. One of the things that Google uses for this is 3 stages, right? Are people able to complete the flow of your product? Do they understand it by repeating what they've just done and explaining it to you in a good way? And are they starting to explore more? Because then if people start to explore, it means that they're confident, they feel at ease using your product. So if you're at the 3rd stage, you're doing something very well. Anyway, so that's what we do as well. What have we been doing with this UX lab and also with visiting other DBS offices around Asia is the following. So we've completed about 43 projects. So we really had quite an impact with a lot of businesses within DBS. We had 350 tests. So that means that more than 350 people we invited outside of the bank coming into DBS, reviewing our products, and making us understand how they appreciate the products. We had 250 observers, and with observers we mean people that come in and look at the research. Because the UX lab has been set up in 2 rooms. You have a research room, which we call the living room, because it's been designed to make people feel at ease. And then we have an observation room, where we want people from the business or the product owner teams or any other designer to come in and sit, and they can see what's happening in the room next door. So we don't need to go back with the report and present the report, and at the end they say, thank you very much for the report, they put it somewhere in the desk and don't use it anymore. No, they're actually there, they're seeing how the interaction takes place, and they understand the struggles that their users are going through. So that's why it's very important to have observers there as well. And also obviously creates leverage. And also very happy to say that we've touched every business in DBS, even from HR to institutional banking, to retail banking, and even Digibank. Digibank is a new initiative we set up. They all work together with us. So one example I'd like to give you is the ATM. This happened about a month ago, and first I made the picture which I'll show after this slide, but this is currently what's happening in Singapore. OCBC Bank and UOB are also 2 big banks in Singapore, and this is a Wednesday night around 8 p.m. and this is the queue at both of these ATMs. So OCBC, there's one guy, UOB, there's one guy. But what I saw before was the following picture. This is an ATM of DBS right there, and the queue starts here, it goes here, 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 all around the pillar up to here. There was another guy right there. And here on the floor you can see with the yellow lines that they facilitate an even longer queue. And this is a big complaint we hear a lot of the times. People are saying it's such a pain to withdraw money with DBS because the queues are always that long. And that's because we have about 60% of Singaporeans that bank with us. So our ATMs are one of the most heavily used ATMs in the whole world. So we thought, okay, we definitely need to improve all of this. So we started to find out how people would use our ATMs. So we had a top 5 of user interactions. We saw some behavior we thought we could improve, and then we started to redesign the ATM. First we made a prototype in a PowerPoint. It's quite simple, you can all do that. And then we started to invite people over, play around with this UI, what do you think of it? And then we started to mature it a bit more into proper screens. And then we did also a eye tracking test. So this is some examples of eye tracking, right? This is the setup as you just saw right there. And this is what you can see. So you can see how people are looking over the screen. It's called a gaze plot. Where do they start when they first see the screen? Where do they go next? And where do they end up? So you really understand the journey that people are going to go through, so you know where to improve it. If people keep going back and forth, you understand there's something wrong. They're confused. They don't know where to look at. So that's how eye tracking can really help you. And next, I'm going to show you a video we made of this interaction with the new UI, as we defined it, for someone who's going to withdraw $80. So this is the video. The blue dot is the eye tracker, so you can see where people are looking. That's it. So we try to improve the flow, just because if the speed is higher, there will be shorter queues and people will not have such a negative experience withdrawing money from the ATM, right? The screen, as you saw, also is very important. What we saw with the eye tracking and with doing the user research, that a lot of the people first go inside the ATM, they check their balance, then they go back to the home page, they go into cash withdrawal, and then they define the amount of cash they want to withdraw. Obviously, that's a bit back and forth, right? So what we did now for making it faster is that people can tap check my balance on the home page or on the landing screen. Then it will immediately show the balance they have on their main account, and then they can start withdrawing money. So we took away all those steps going back and forth, and we improved the speed by 1/3. So that's a start, and this project is still ongoing because we want it to be at least half as fast as we used to have it before. Right, so this is that screen, by the way. So right here you can now check your main account balance by tapping it, and we'll load it on the landing screen itself. And it doesn't need to be very complicated, right? Because you can find 85% of your UX problems already with 5 people. You don't need to do like 20, 40, 80, 200, whatever. If you get 5 people in, let them go through it, you can already find 85% of your issues. So this is iterative testing. Don't confuse this with like a final test. Is my product good to go to the launch? To launch. This is to understand really what kind of struggles do we have here. So this is what we do, right? It's 5 tests, small stuff, and this is based on this guy. It's another UX guru. His name is Jacob Nielsen. He's done a lot of research around all these things, and he found out that this is the curve where you can find your issues. So with 1 person, you're already at 25%. And then here's about a sweet spot. So 5 people, you're already up to 85% of your issues. And you can start going back to your design team, or they're already there, and you can start improving your product. So that's some of the information I had, some of my experience at BBS for a little bit about me. And then I have 3 more things I will share with you guys because I think it's interesting. 94% of the factors that affect a user's first impression of your product are design related. That's based on a piece of research people have done from a university in the US. Also, every dollar a company invests in UX can yield a return of up to $100. So it's the ROI is pretty good for UX, so you will definitely reap the benefits of it. And then you can already find 85% of your usability issues with 5 users. So I would really suggest any one of you, if you're in product or whenever you have a good heart for UX, just get a couple of people in, sit down with them, try to see how they use your product. So that kind of concludes what I wanted to tell you guys today. If you want to learn a bit more about UX or product design, I would really suggest reading these books. So it's, the first one is Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. He's a guru on IT and web development. He would really tell you how you should be designing these things and what you definitely should not do. Don Norman has written the book, The Design of Everyday Things. It's also about hardware design. He has very easy to understand basics for doing design. And then this is a very good book by Daniel Wright, who's Predictably Irrational, which talks about how people are doing great things which are actually quite easy to predict. And then of course, if you're over there, if you really feel this is good enough, then you can go to Udemy or you can go to Treehouse. You can actually learn UX courses, web design, all of these things quite easily. It doesn't cost a lot and will absolutely bring you up to speed rapidly. That is it for me. I tweet about UX and stuff. Also, you can find me on Pages. If you have any questions, this will be the time to ask. Anybody? There in the back?
my bank across all channels. So I hope to take something from here and probably see how we implement it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit confused on one part. You said that in the last slide, you said that it takes typically 5 users to figure it out whether the thing is good or not. So completely agree. But before that, somewhere in the presentation, you were showing that there's a software which tracks how people look at things, how they figure it out. So that is something which probably a tool which I do not have in my bank, probably don't have money to hire an which will be having a tool.
Yeah.
So, but I do have 5 people.
Yeah, you're talking about the heat map, right?
So this, sorry.
You were talking about the heat map for
Yes,
the
the heat
tracking?
map.
Yeah, sure.
So let's just tell me, so what exactly that heat map really tells you?
So,
and what will be how exactly will it be different from what the inputs that will get from 5 or 10 users?
right.
So can they be replaced? Can I take my 5 to 50 and will I get a similar kind of result? What will it do?
Yeah, so it really depends on the type of research you're doing, right? So the 5 people I'm talking about is what's called formative. So you try to iterate, you try to make more and more steps and improve your design. Using a heat map is more summative. So then you would really get more people in because you need the data to start defining your heat map to make sure that what you're seeing there really is showing what your target group of users would actually do. So running a proper heat map would definitely be something you would need more than 5 people. Because you will still get a heat map, but it's very hard to interpret, right? And this is what I'm seeing with eye tracking as well, is that people abuse eye tracking most of the times because immediately it looks like it's a quantitative type of research. Well, it is not. So they're saying, okay, 5 people, I got my gaze plot, this is a standard gaze plot, I got a heat map which shows me where most of the people are looking. But interpreting the data at such a stage with that low amount of people is still very important. If something is really red, doesn't mean that, first of all, they got confused, so that's why they're looking at it for a longer period of time, or was it because it was really interesting and they wanted to look at it, or maybe they didn't know a specific word. So it's very important that you're also there to interpret these kind of things. You can't just run an eye tracking study with a couple of people, pull out a heat map, and then put them on the table with the senior manager and say, see, this is an issue, people got confused right there. You have to really understand it. And you have to run the numbers which suit the type of focus the research had. And that really depends on a per project, per type of research study. All right. Yeah.
I don't know if you can share a little bit of some experiences of unique findings when doing the UX testing. It comes to mind, not too long ago, watched the movie The Big Short.
Oh, yeah, I still want to see it.
Seen it, really, really interesting, particularly the quote that it said, it ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble, but it's what you know for a fact that you believe that it's something when it is not.
Yeah.
We've seen, and one thing that we found while doing the UX testing, we were going to launch a new product, and we weren't sure about one thing. Everything else, we were absolutely sure that it was perfect. No questions about it. Our basically research was focusing on something else about that solution that's where we thought could be improved. Well, it turns out that after testing, nobody had issues with the stuff that we were wondering if they will get it.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we knew, I mean, that was a done deal because we didn't change it from the previous app.
Yeah.
Everybody hit it, basically hit the wall and just couldn't advance to that. And to us, that was really an eye-opening to think, well, really, we should question everything and not assume that things are understood. So I don't know if you've I'm sure you've seen things like that every day in your experience. Could you tell us a little
Yeah, so a good example after this was the onboarding flow for a new app we had. So people had to sign up for the flow, and the promise was within 90 seconds you get your new bank account. And that, for us, we thought that's very important. If people can do it that fast, they will go and have a bank account, and once they're in there, they will start upgrading. So we tested this whole flow, upgrading to a full account, that is. So we started testing this flow, and what we could see is that people very quickly went through that whole flow, indeed within 90 seconds. So everybody was happy. Everybody was like, wow, great, this is really good, we've done a good job. In 90 seconds, people signed up. But then me and my role were asking all those people, so what do you think you've signed up for now? And then they said, well, I think product X with this and this feature. And I said, do you think or do you know? And then they were always like, yeah, I'm not really sure. So what it would then do, right, is that it would list a couple of options. So I would say, product A has these features, product B has these features, product C has these features. And I would ask them, which of these 3 products do you think you've signed up for? And in about half the times, they chose the wrong product. So there we could see, and luckily this was quite early in the development, we could see that we had a very clear mindset of an easy flow, in 90 seconds you're done, and we would think that people would sign up for it, right? But then you can also see that people got confused. And very important if you're doing a finance product that people have trust, and they know what they're doing, because it's about their money. You're not going to put money anywhere where you don't really feel or understand what you're doing, right? So this, I think, was one of the most interesting researches I did. And specifically because I already started to notice that maybe people didn't understand the product, and they had to kind of change the research just to find out if it was really the case. And it was the case. So we had to change that whole flow. And actually we had to change the value proposition of the whole product. So that's an experience from my side. Thank you. One more question.
Just a question on when you're doing the testing, when you invite the these users,
Yeah.
do you ask them to like video record their thinking, or what's your process? First of all, selection, and what's the process of doing that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of methodologies there, right? So eye tracking, as I mentioned before, has a competitor which is called Think Aloud testing. And Think Aloud testing is very easy testing for a lot of people. What you do is you just sit down, you give someone a mobile device, you ask them, okay, right now I want you to complete this task, like open up a new account at your existing bank with this app. And then while you're doing it, tell me what you are doing along the way. So then people would say, okay, I find the app, I open the app, I see an overview now, okay, I see here at the bottom right, add another account to it, I press it, I go in there, I fill my my personal details of my other account. Oh, this is a bit confusing, I don't know what this button is for. And then that would be an input for you to write down, okay, this is a confusing part. The issue with this is though that people are constantly talking while they're doing the task. And this would never happen at home, right? You wouldn't sit on the couch and talk about it and really try to understand that interface and tell the guy sitting next to you what you're doing. So this is a bit of a downside. This is an easy way of doing it. So the eye tracking then, what you can do is you just sit them down, ask them the same thing, and then you say you don't need to talk to me anymore. You can just assume that nobody's here, try to do it yourself. And then because you're also tracking the eyes, you're recording a video of what they're doing. You can see how the flow is happening. And if someone struggles, you will know. You will see immediately. And then you can, at the end of the task, if they've completed the task or not, you can then ask them, okay, I saw something happening here. What was it? And because it's the video there and the eye tracking, they can actually give you proper feedback. Because if you, for example, do user research for 5 minutes, right? And you would see an issue at the start of that 5 minutes, and you would ask someone at the end of the 5 minutes what happened there, they wouldn't know. But they will give you an answer. Because half the time they feel a little bit obliged to give an answer, so they'll just make something up. And if you're not very experienced, you just write it down. Okay, this is the root cause for that issue at the start, which I'm seeing. Well, actually you're not measuring the right thing. So it really depends on what you try to do, how long the task itself is, what the benefit needs to be of the research, right? And there's also websites that list all types of UX research out there, pros, the cons. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely Google it, or I can give it to you later.
Hello. Customers varies in many ways, demography, technology, or some lives in rural areas, some in urban areas. So that the expectation also varies. So is there a basic checklist format by which you can ascertain that what are the
So expectations and
Can we assign the expectations? Considering the demography or technology or education aids.
right.
So how can we know these expectations can we meet or not?
Yeah, so that's another thing, right? What are the expectations? Some people say, okay, you have to ask your users what they want. Companies, for example, like Apple don't necessarily do that. They just try to really understand their users first, and we do it by using ethnography. So we actually, if we want to make a new product and want to find out how people are living, because that's the way you can find out what they're expecting of a new product, right? We do a deep dive. So we go to whatever. I've been to India and try to understand how people use their mobile phone for doing banking business, right? So you could actually, I would be there for half a day with them and would be for 4 or 5 hours, see how they live, how they currently use their mobile phone. I could see that they're getting SMSs coming in for paying their bills, and that SMS will automatically be listed in their banking app they currently use. So these kind of features, competitive analysis, deep diving into your users, that would be the way you try to understand what they need from your side. But asking them to define the expectations up front is most of the times just like what I said before. They will give you an answer, but you probably won't hit the sweet spot. Okay, thank you guys very much. I'll be around the whole day. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for such an interesting presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
And at least we now know that we can see beyond our personal focal group of one when coming to design decisions, right?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So now we're going to go on to our afternoon coffee and networking. So some of you have a networking meetings already set up. If not, you can talk with your fellow participants. So we're going to be out here until 4 p.m. Please make sure that